The descent from the mountain was like a parade. Large crowds followed Jesus, eager to see if the man whose words had moved their hearts would back those words with actions. They didn't have to wait long. As Jesus reached the bottom of the mountain, a man with leprosy approached him. The crowd immediately pulled back, creating a wide, fearful circle around the sick man. Leprosy wasn't just a disease, but a social death sentence. Those afflicted had to stay outside towns, announce their uncleanness, and live as outcasts among tombs and caves. Yet this man pushed through his shame to kneel before Jesus. "Lord," he said, his voice rough from disuse, "if you are willing, you can make me clean." The crowd held its breath. Would Jesus back away like everyone else? Would he quote the rules that kept such people at a distance? Instead, Jesus did the unthinkable. He reached out his hand and touched the man, touched the untouchable, made contact with the unclean. "I am willing," Jesus said simply. "Be clean." Immediately the leprosy left him. The watching crowd gasped as they saw the man's skin transform before their eyes, the open sores closing, the white patches returning to healthy color, the twisted fingers straightening. Jesus gave the healed man a gentle instruction. "Don't tell anyone, but go, show yourself to the priest, and offer the gift Moses commanded as a testimony to them." The newly healed man nodded, though his beaming face suggested keeping quiet about such a miracle would be nearly impossible. When Jesus entered Capernaum, a town that had become something of a home base for his ministry, a Roman centurion came to him. The crowd tensed. Roman soldiers were the visible symbol of their nation's defeat, representatives of a foreign power that occupied their land. But this centurion came not with demands, but with a request. "Lord," he said, "my servant lies at home paralyzed, suffering terribly." Jesus' response was immediate and generous. "Shall I come and heal him?" The centurion's reply showed unexpected humility and faith. "Lord, I do not deserve to have you come under my roof, but just say the word and my servant will be healed, for I myself am a man under authority, with soldiers under me. I tell this one, 'Go,' and he goes, and that one, 'Come,' and he comes. I say to my servant, 'Do this,' and he does it." The military man understood chain of command and the power of authorized words. He recognized in Jesus someone whose authority went beyond physical limitations. When Jesus heard this, he was amazed. Turning to those following him, he said, "Truly I tell you, I have not found anyone in Israel with such great faith. I say to you that many will come from the east and the west, and will take their places at the feast with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. But the subjects of the kingdom will be thrown outside into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth." The meaning was clear and shocking. This Gentile soldier had shown greater faith than many born and raised in Israel. The kingdom Jesus spoke about would welcome unexpected guests and exclude some who thought their place was guaranteed. Then Jesus turned back to the centurion. "Go, let it be done just as you believed it would." And the servant was healed at that moment, though miles away, showing that Jesus' authority extended beyond physical touch to the power of his spoken command. When Jesus entered Peter's house, he found Peter's mother-in-law lying in bed with a fever. Unlike his public healings, this was a private moment of compassion. Jesus touched her hand, and the fever left her. She got up and began to wait on him, her restored health immediately used in service. As evening approached, word of Jesus' healings had spread throughout the town. People brought to him many who were demon-possessed, crowding around Peter's door. With a word, Jesus drove out the spirits and healed all the sick. The gospel writer noted that this fulfilled what was spoken through the prophet Isaiah. He took up our infirmities and bore our diseases. Jesus was not just dealing with symptoms, but carrying the weight of human brokenness, a hint of how he would ultimately bear it on the cross. The next morning, seeing the crowd gathering again around him, Jesus gave orders to cross to the other side of the lake. The Sea of Galilee lay before them, its surface catching the morning light. Before they left, a teacher of the law approached Jesus. "Teacher," he said, "I will follow you wherever you go." Jesus' response was honest and direct. "Foxes have dens and birds have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head." He offered no comfort, no settled life to his followers, only a traveling life focused on the kingdom mission. Another disciple said to him, "Lord, first let me go and bury my father." But Jesus told him, "Follow me, and let the dead bury their own dead." The response seemed harsh, but Jesus was making clear that the kingdom took priority over even the most sacred family duties. The call to follow him demanded immediate, complete commitment. As Jesus and his disciples boarded a boat and pushed off from shore, the crowd remained watching from the beach, perhaps wondering if they too were called to such radical commitment. Tired from days of teaching and healing, Jesus fell asleep on a cushion in the stern. As the little boat made its way across the lake, a fierce storm suddenly arose. The Sea of Galilee was known for such storms. Cold air from the surrounding mountains could clash with the warm air over the lake, creating violent winds and waves with little warning. The waves broke over the boat so that it was nearly swamped. The disciples, several of them experienced fishermen familiar with the lake's moods, were terrified. Yet Jesus slept on, seemingly undisturbed by the chaos around him. The disciples went and woke him, their voices tight with fear. "Lord, save us! We're going to drown!" Jesus opened his eyes, taking in their panic. "You of little faith, why are you so afraid?" he asked. Then he got up and rebuked the winds and the waves, speaking to the elements as if addressing disobedient servants. "Quiet! Be still!" Immediately the wind died down, and it was completely calm. The men were amazed. "What kind of man is this?" they asked each other. "Even the winds and the waves obey him." Their question hung in the air as the boat continued toward the eastern shore. What kind of man indeed? One whose authority extended not just over disease and demons, but over the very elements of nature. The one who had taught with authority on the mountain was now demonstrating that same authority over every realm, physical, spiritual, and natural. When they arrived at the other side, in the region of the Gadarenes, they were met by a disturbing sight. Two demon-possessed men coming from the tombs were so violent that no one could pass that way. These men lived among the dead, their humanity all but gone due to the dark forces that controlled them. When they saw Jesus, they cried out, "What do you want with us, Son of God? Have you come here to torture us before the appointed time?" The demons recognized what many humans did not yet understand, the true identity of the man before them, and the judgment he represented. Some distance from them, a large herd of pigs was feeding. The demons begged Jesus, "If you drive us out, send us into the herd of pigs." Jesus said to them simply, "Go." The demons came out of the men and went into the pigs, and the whole herd rushed down the steep bank into the lake and died in the water. Those tending the pigs ran off to report this in the town and countryside, and the whole town came out to meet Jesus. When they saw him, their concern was not for the men now restored to sanity, but for their economic loss. They pleaded with him to leave their region. So Jesus got back into the boat to return to the western shore. Behind him, he left 2 men restored to wholeness, living testimonies in a region that had rejected the healer himself. The kingdom had broken into hostile territory, planting flags of redemption even as it withdrew. As the boat pulled away from shore, the disciples were left to ponder all they had witnessed, a day that had revealed their teacher's authority in new and unsettling ways. The man who had sat on a hillside teaching about a kingdom was now demonstrating the power of that kingdom over every area of brokenness. The words from the mountain were becoming flesh before their eyes.